Hello, welcome back to another lower league lesson. I am Prometheum, and today we are talking about all things bugs. We're going to talk about bug units, bug buildings, everything Zerg. This was a Facebook group request. Somebody wanted to know every single unit, and that is impossible to do every single unit in one video, so this is video 3 of 3. Welcome to Zerg. Alright, first of all, the first thing you're going to have as Zerg is not this building. You will have a hatchery. And a hatchery can only let you produce these units over here. You can either make buildings out of the spawning pool, roach warren, or baneling nest. Music's too loud, just a little bit. I'm going to turn that down just a tad. Alright, and back to it. So with Zerg, the first unit you're probably going to make is a queen, which has some interesting abilities. It will spawn larvae into the hatchery, and that will give you more larvae. Down here you can see obviously that there's tons of larvae. I think the max is 20 or 25 larvae, but by itself a hatchery will only spawn 3 larvae at a time. So once you get the spawning pool, that allows you to make queens and zerglings. So you're going to make queens so that you can increase your production. So that's a very interesting Zerg mechanic. Other than that, yeah, anyway, moving on from there. So you make the spawning pool, and then you can make zerglings. Zerglings have increased movement speed, and once you get to hive tech, increase the attack speed of zerglings by 40%, which is amazing actually. Adrenal glands for zerglings make them cracklings. Also on hatchery tech, you have the roach warren and baneling nest, and we'll get to those units later. Once you upgrade to the layer, which we'll upgrade this one to layer, then you can get into hydralisks, lurkers, and spire units, mutalisks, and corruptors. And then once you get a infestation pit, then you can upgrade your layer into a hive, and that will let you get certain upgrades for units. The greater spire, which will let you get the broodlords, and then the ultralisk cavern. Cool. Also worth of note is that ground units get their upgrades from the evolution chamber for melee attack, missile attacks, and then armor right there. Cool. Okay, so we have lings, roaches, banes, hydras, lurkers, flappy things, advanced flappy things, and then yeah, infestation pit lets you build infestors and vipers once you get to hive tech. So let's move on down to the units. Basic unit right here, zerglings. They only attack ground units. They do it melee unit, so they have to get nice and close. Yeah, pretty cool. They can transform into banelings once you have a baneling nest. Both lings and banelings have movement speed upgrades at their respective unit structures, so we'll upgrade these and we'll see how much faster they move once we get there. We'll also get the 40% attack speed upgrade, and yeah, so also we want to upgrade burrow. So banelings do quite a bit of damage versus light 35, and it's splash damage. They can be manually detonated, so if you do burrow them and a bunch of marines walk over them, pop. Pretty sneaky little spicy bugs. Anyway, moving on from there, we have roaches and ravagers. Roaches are pretty beefy. They're armored. They do 16 damage, and then they can transform into these dudes, ravagers, which are no longer armored for some reason, and they lose a little bit of life. So 25 life between the two of them. But ravagers have this cool corrosive bile splash damage thing that does friendly fire, so watch out. And it can attack ground units, so watch out for that. Pretty cool. They're a little bit beefy, but if you've seen any pro Zerg matches, Roach Ravager is a very common unit composition. Cool. Moving on from there is layer tech units. probably the most basic one is a Hydralisk. A Hydralisk is like your Marine. They can shoot air and it can shoot ground, and they can transform into Lurkers. So Lurkers, well, let's go back to Hydras. So Hydras do have a +1 range attack at the Hydra Den and increased movement speed upgrade. Lurkers, once you get to Hive Tech, do have adaptive talons, which reduces the time for them to burrow and increases their movement speed, and seismic spines, which increases their attack range by 2. So we'll look at both of those too, because we're rich. Alright, so moving back to them, yeah. Hydralisks, little spitty bugs, and notice that every single Zerg unit can burrow. Come back, boom. So that's kind of scary, isn't it? Frightening. It's like that damn movie. Can't think of the damn movie. Anyway, so Lurkers can only attack while they're burrowed, and they do splash damage to enemy units, not to friendly units. And yeah, it's a lot of damage. 30 versus armored, 30 bonus, or basically 10 bonus damage versus armored units. So they're pretty scary against tanks and marauders and immortals and stalkers and pretty much anything on the ground. Lurkers, very, very scary. So I think we got some speed upgrades for Zerglings and Banelings. So yeah, look at those babies go. By the way, the fastest unit in Starcraft is a Zergling on creep. So there you go. I'm gonna let them run back and forth. They don't get tired either. Banelings, they turn into roly-polies when you get their upgraded speed, and they also get +5 health when you get their speed upgrade. Cool. Roachhorn also has movement speed upgrade and move while burrowed for roaches. Pretty scary. So make sure you get your detection and missile turrets if you're Terran, or photon cannons if you're Protoss. Okay, moving on. We are moving to Spire. So the Spire, once you get the Hive, can turn into the Greater Spire, which I have here already. So, Greater Spire. Bugs are gross. And with the Spire, you can get your Mutalisks, which are fast, expensive, and they don't do a ton of damage by themselves, but they do somewhat of a splash damage. So they do 9 damage to the first unit that it hits, and then I think it's 6, and then like 1 damage to a third unit. So I won't be able to show it here because it won't do like splash friendly fire damage. But yeah, that is something that people probably don't know, is that they actually do a little bouncy splash damage. It's kind of weird. Anyway, yeah, Mutalisks. They are pretty squishy, so enough Marines and Widow Mines and Stalkers should be enough to deter them. Yeah, and they clump up, so that's really nice when Widow Mines hit and kill all of them. By the way, 4 Widow Mines will do enough splash damage to kill all of the Mutalisks in a clump like that, so there you go. There's your anti-Mutalisk tip of the day.
The minerals have.
Alright, moving on, we have Corruptors, which are only an air-to-air unit, and they do bonus damage to massive. So they're good against the BCs and carriers and Broodlords. Broodlords are actually massive, so there you go. Corruptors. They have a ability to kill ground units with their caustic spray, which, again, I can't do against friendly units. Too bad. Once you have Hive Tech and the Greater Spire, they can turn into Broodlords, which is kind of the ultimate air weapon for Zerg, because they shoot broodlings and have quite a bit of range. Range is 10, and these broodlings do 4 damage each, but it's free 4 damage, right? It's very, very fast attack speed, so it's pretty insane damage that Broodlords can do. Yeah, pretty scary. Alright, moving on from there, we have Vipers. Vipers are kind of like the Raven or the Oracle of the Zerg army, Swiss Army knife. They have a bunch of abilities. Abduct or Yoink. is pretty scary when you have a line of tanks or immortals getting pulled into a flock of Hydralisks. They have Blinding Cloud, which will disable any ground unit from attacking that's within that Blinding Cloud. And they also have Parasitic Bomb, which targets air units and does 120 damage over 7 seconds, and it's splash damage. So if you have a clump of Vikings and they get parasitic bombed, you need to spread out the Vikings or medevacs or banshees or whatever else unit you're using. And then they also have this consume ability that can help them recharge their energy. Look, he's at 88 energy right now, and then we're going to consume this Zerg structure, and his energy goes up way faster. So what is it? Dealing 200 damage and restoring 3.5 energy to the Viper every second. Lasts for 14 seconds. So he's pretty much going to recharge his entire energy bank and be able to cast his abilities. So you'll see Vipers come and go a lot back and forth between a Zerg base, especially when you're up against tanks and immortals, and I don't know, they yoink lurkers a lot actually, because as long as you have detection, the enemy Viper can abduct lurkers and pull them out of the ground. Pretty sick actually. Blinding Cloud, I don't think I can cast that on a friendly unit, so pretty much done with the Vipers. Cool. Next is the Infestor, which has Microbial Shroud, which I'm not even going to talk about because it has probably never been cast. It is a new ability. It's never been cast in a pro match. What it's supposed to do is reduce incoming air unit damage, kind of like the Guardian Shield does for the Sentry, but it literally has yet to be seen in the pro scene at all. They got rid of the infested Terran and replaced it with this. So anyway, Fungal Growth is pretty common, especially against a Terran army. So that will do 30 damage over 3 seconds and reduces the movement speed by 75%. It reveals cloaked and burrowed units as well, and also if your bio gets fungaled, you can't pick them up in a medevac. Kind of sucks, but yeah. The other ability that they have is Neural Parasite, which allows you to mind control any unit you want and take control of it for 11 seconds. So that's pretty scary when your entire Thor army gets Neural Parasited. Yeah, and that is an upgraded ability that you have to upgrade here. Also, you can get increased starting energy by 25, Neural Parasite, and then here's the Microbial Shroud ability, which we will not be using. And let's see, what else do we have here? I think we're all caught up. The Spire is where you get your air upgrades for the flyer attacks and flyer armor. And then here is kind of the mother of all tech ground units for Zerg, the Ultralisk Cavern. So they have Chitinous Plating, which gives Ultralisk +2 armor. That is pretty much a required upgrade before you even attack with an Ultralisk. +2 armor is quite insane, especially since the Ultralisk already has starting armor of, what, 2? Okay, so now 4. He's going to have 4 armor. A Marine does 6 damage by default. So a Marine is going to do 2 damage to this 500 hit point unit. It's pretty insane that that armor exists. They also have increased the movement speed of Ultralisks off of creep. That's kind of a new one. So there you go. You can make your GG elephants really fast. And they do splash damage against ground units, of course. So they can just tear up a bunch of Marines and Marauders and Zealots and everything. They are massive, so they're immune to mind control or concussive shells, or they can just bop right through Sentry's force fields, and they do 35 damage with no upgrades. Pretty scary. Alright, and then we got Swarm Hosts, everybody's favorite. They can burrow, and then they can spawn locusts. Spawn 2 locusts, they have a 18-second timed life. And we're going to launch those over here.
Field depleted.
And Swarmos usually come in packs of 10 or 12, and they do a lot of damage. 10 damage every 0.43 seconds. That's pretty crazy.
We evolved. Stuff got better.
Yikes. Yeah, I hate Swarmos. You can tell I'm not a Zerg player. And by the way, these are the simulant
Evolution
Zerg
complete.
skins. So everything looks like a robot because I'm a baller and I've got 6 skin packs. Anyway, I think that's about it for all the attacking units. For Overlords, you can make Dropper Lords. We can load up a bunch of ground units into Dropper Lords and then fly them across the map. And this is most common for Banelings. People will send Banelings into your mineral line and just kill your economy. Also, there is a movement speed upgrade for Overlords and Overseers, so they don't move that slow forever. That's pretty painful. And then Overlords can morph into Overseers, which are detectors, and they can plop out changelings, which will change into a Marine or a Zealot or a Zergling as soon as it sees a enemy unit or building. So, little spies. Kind of creepy. What else do they have? They have Contaminate. They have Contaminate. I wish we saw Contaminate happen in pro games more often. And if I played Zerg, I would contaminate the shit out of my opponents, but it will... Can't do it to friendly buildings, but you'll contaminate somebody's building, like their factory, and it'll stop producing. So if a tank is 1 second from being completed, that tank will not be completed for 21 seconds. Cool. And then Oversight. So they pop up and then get, what is it, 25%? Yep, 25% wider vision when you have them in Oversight mode. So you can see his vision circle right there gets bigger. Ooh. Kind of like the Observer. The Observer has their surveillance mode as well. Alright, and then, let's see, talk about the Nidus Worm. So Nidus Worm is where you load up all the units, all the ground units, and then as long as you have vision, you can pop a Nidus Worm anywhere on the map and unload those units anywhere on the map. Scary bug things. Cool. And then, yeah, you can set a rally point out and then hit D, and they'll run over there. And then set a rally point over here, over here, over here. Pretty scary. It also spreads creep, which is, I think, pretty imba. Because then a queen will pop out and drop a creep tumor, and now you have creep in your base. I hate that when that happens. Alright, what am I missing? Let's see, we talked about hive, layer, hatchery. We talked about queens injecting larvae. We talked about ground unit upgrades. We talked about air unit upgrades. I think we covered every unit. Drones. Okay, how about drones? The unique thing about Zerg is that to make a building, to make a hatchery, to make a gas, you need to kill one of your own little worker boys. So it's really important to not overbuild and over tech unless you're going to utilize that tech correctly. So a hatchery only costs 300 minerals, but it really costs 350 minerals because you're killing a worker that costs 50 minerals. And yeah, can slow down your economy if you build too many buildings and not replace your drones. Interesting, huh? Also, they do 5 damage and have 40 life, which is the same as a probe, I believe, and SCVs have 45 life. Yeah, so don't get in a fight with an SCV, basically. And I think we built all the buildings. Oh yeah, spine crawlers and spore crawlers. Cool. Yeah, we didn't build those. Build spore crawler. Here's your static defense. And the spore crawlers are the anti-air and are detectors. And then the spine crawlers are just anti-ground poke boys. So yeah. Maybe a couple of those, especially the spore crawlers. You want to build spore crawlers in the back of your mineral line every time you expand, and guaranteed by 4.5 minutes, I would say, you want to have a spore crawler in each of your bases. Alright, spine crawler. How much damage does that do? 25 and 30 versus armored. Cool. Sometimes you can get pretty sweet animation. Oh, yeah, that's what I was looking for. Fling them back. Oh. And the spore crawler does 15 damage and 30 versus biological. I did not know that. I didn't know there was a biological tag with that. That is pretty crazy. Wow. See, even I'm learning. Alright, now I think I'm about done. So, what did we learn today? Bugs are creepy. By the way, if you get the roach move underground thing, their skin changes to have these little spikes, extra spikes, on them. So you should be able to tell when your opponent has burrow move, and also they make the ground a little bit darker when they are moving and you don't have detection. You should be able to see like a darker colored ground when they are creeping about down there. Did that guy drop? No, he didn't drop. Cool. Alright, if I've missed anything, let me know. Comment down below, and like, follow, subscribe. Good luck, have fun, and wash your hands. See ya.